industrial is a hot market segment. So we want to become more active in that sector and make sure that we can do some things to put our sites out there. Again, a lot of the infrastructure is already in. So now it's just doing the due diligence to maybe get these privately owned sites out of the point where they're more shovel ready.
From cornfields to high rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Ryan Moffatt here on the show. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
I'm excited you're here. Say, for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, I am the Community and Economic Development Director for the City of West Des Moines. I've been there for 1 year now. So our department oversees housing efforts for the city when it comes to affordable housing, improving the quality of the housing stock that we've got. And then also on the economic development side, of course, we do a lot of business retention and attraction for the city. We work on development agreements to gap finance projects, and then a whole host of things in between. We market the community. We work on annexation for the city.
You get into a whole bunch of things. Tell me, take me back to the very beginning. What'd you study? How'd you get into this line of work?
Yeah, I am fortunate to be doing what I call my realistic dream job. So I've always wanted to be a city planner ever since I was a kid. I'm one of the few people that I know that actually went into that program right out of high school.
What was the genesis of that? You always want to be one.
Always wanted to be one because I started with SimCity, basically video games, computer. So
yes.
That got me hooked in. And then I remember, just as a kid too, like when I had a train set, I got rid of the trains and just built all the buildings out. So I had a giant town set up in my basement. But that was definitely the roots. And I was fortunate enough to pursue that both with my undergrad and grad degree. And I've been doing government work since 2003 now. Started out after graduated from Iowa State working for a regional council of governments up in Fort Dodge. So kind of regional planning, economic development work. Then came home from the Des Moines area originally. So City of Des Moines hired me as a city planner back in 2005. Did that for probably 11 years before I made the shift over to economic development and haven't looked back since. So last year, Clyde Evans, who had been working for the city of West Des Moines for 32 years, very well respected in his field. He was kind of a rock star locally in the economic development circles. He brought me in and just asked if I'd consider, applying for the position. I was perfectly happy doing what I did in City of Des Moines, loved what I did there, but this was just a great opportunity, like the direction the community was going in. So I was fortunate enough through a very rigorous interview process to get the position.
Well, it's terrific. Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of responsibility, especially with West Des Moines being as high profile as it has been for as many years as it has been. And certainly Clyde, fantastic job over the years. We interacted with him a number of times in some of the we have here in West Des Moines.
Yeah, always big shoes to fill. I hear that quite a bit. Clyde was gracious enough to say, you know what, you're going to do this your own way. You're going to do just fine. You're going to blaze your own course. And, he's not far away. So if I do need to use him as a resource, I still give him a call. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think West Des Moines has been in a great position through a lot of the decisions that have been made over the years and being aggressive and proactive with economic development. I think the results, show for themselves.
Yeah, there's not a lot of places that have two malls and maybe what will have been two malls. So let's talk about Valley West Mall and what's taking place there.
Yeah, when I go around the community, for better or worse, I mentioned that we've got 1.5 malls left. So, Valley West Mall is one of the things that really intrigued me about the job, too. I had really kind of a legacy in my work in Des Moines, working with redevelopment. Of course, our team worked with Southridge Mall, Merle Hay Mall over the years, too, and certainly all the stuff that we've done downtown and on corridors over the years. As this community in West Des Moines matures, I think that those are some of the skills that we can deploy here, too, because we want to make sure we don't have a donut hole in the middle of the community. So Valley West Mall, I think, as most people know, it's in receivership. So we're working with the bank, the court-appointed receiver, and then the mall leasing agent to really kind of reposition the property in the future. And I have meetings with those folks, basically. I mean, they're telling me everything that I want to hear, that they feel that there's way too much commercial space there. Its days as a mall are numbered, and that they're probably going to take a haircut on the value of the loan that's outstanding in your property. So my role right now is to continue to drum up interest and get developers take a look at that property. So when the time is right to position that property for sale, we've got good interest lined up to do really what we want to do at the city is create kind of a mixed use, more urban type development there. And that's not unlike what's happening all over the country. I mean, every city at this point has a mall that's probably in a similar state, if not worse, condition than Valley West Mall. And so this is a new formula, but it's something that we talk about quite a bit. There'd still be a retail component there, but we think that certainly a lot of rooftops in the area, maybe an entertainment function, limited office. And then one of the things we're really striving for right now too is to make sure that we end up with a public component to what happens there. So an outdoor gathering space or a festival space that the public can utilize too.
Well, it's, where it's positioned is a fantastic location, right? Right in the middle of this town. There's just tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, when I've met with both local and national developers, I think I'm on 5 or 6 different developers now just in a year that I've met with about the property. All of them have said this is still a good piece of real estate. Right. For all purposes, Valley West Mall is the geographic population center of the metro as things have moved west. And with a position right off the interstate and the great infrastructure around it, it's still got good bones to be able to transfer into something hopefully a lot more dynamic in the future that will get some activity back there again.
You mentioned office. Very briefly, I'm going to take it from there. What are you seeing in the office space? There are a lot of mixed opinions on what's taking place. Certainly, we read nationally it's problematic, and downtown Des Moines has tremendous exposure to office. Therefore, it's a little more challenged, I suspect. And you see that show up in the vacancy reports. But what are you seeing in West Des Moines?
Yeah, that's another challenge that we're really working through. I won't sugarcoat that without question. It's an issue that we're going to be facing for quite a while, I think. But really, depending on whose vacancy report you read. Sure. Our vacancy rate in the western suburbs isn't all that much different from downtown Des Moines, give it a point or two difference. But so we've got, our work cut out for us there too. And I can just say that it's going to be a slow grind, I think, to chip away at some of the vacant office space that's out there. We still say is what the brokers would call a good amount of deal velocity happening in the western suburbs. But a lot of it's kind of the smaller tenants, the people that need 5,000 or 8,000 square foot. And sometimes you get building owners that have 25, 35, 45,000 square feet of space sitting out there at the moment, trying not to demise down for these smaller tenants. And so that's the challenge right now, is finding the bigger tenants to fill these office spaces. We have a lot of conversations about what the future of this looks like way down the road. Now, luckily, we're not in a position yet where people are throwing the keys to their office buildings back to the bank yet. But we've had discussions where if there is obsolete office product near Valley West Mall, for example, or we do have some older office stock, what can you do with that? I think in downtown, just with the floor plates of the building, the views that you've got, those are probably more conducive targets to be able to convert to a different use like residential. I think, again, with a larger floor plate, inefficient use of space, that makes it tougher in the suburbs to look at a conversion. And even if you did, what are you going to overlook? Parking lot or another office building. Right. So we're not there yet, but, an idea would be if a building doesn't have any other economic use as an office, scrape it, redevelop it would be one idea way down the road.
Yep. All right. You mentioned affordable housing, and that has, anytime I hear that, it's like a little tongue in cheek, because there's nothing, anytime you got to go vertical on anything, it's just not particularly affordable for the average person. But maybe when we're talking about West Des Moines, the economic scale does look a little different than Iowa's average, if you will. So what does that mean in your world?
Well, and I think the first thing we have to talk about is how we define affordable housing, because that means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
That's right.
And, it's a big spectrum, right? And so we could talk about affordability with entry-level starter homes, new construction. That's one thing. When it comes to multifamily, for example, which is right now where we're focusing a lot of our affordable housing efforts with, it's everything from very low income, it's kind of almost a subsidization type thing for rents, all the way up to various area median income levels, and just making sure that we've got housing provided for all. So a lot of what we're doing are pointing developers towards the right resources that the state may have through the housing tax credit programs or the workforce housing tax credit program. Even still with those programs right now, with the way that interest rates are if you're financing a project, and construction costs, which luckily are coming down a little bit right now, but still remain high. That's something where we're still needing to gap finance affordable housing projects, because from a return on investment standpoint, affordable housing developers really can't build this without these tax credits and other sources out there. We work a lot with the home builders as well. In fact, we just had a kind of a forum yesterday with the Home Builders Association in Des Moines about how to get more rooftops going in West Des Moines. And we've always been fortunate, we've been growing, but what we're starting to see happen now is a little bit of getting outpaced by communities like Waukee and Ankeny. And there's a host of reasons why that might be, but one of them does come down to affordability. And that a lot of what's getting built in Des Moines right now, West Des Moines for single family, is on the higher spectrum, price range wise. Got some beautiful estate lots being created, but there's not a whole lot of more affordable kind of entry level housing product out there getting built in West Des Moines right now. And that's maybe why you're seeing Ankeny and Waukee grow faster right now, is because that product is going to those markets. And so that's something that we've got our eye on. Again, you talk about what's affordable from a single family home product now. And when we talk with builders, they're saying in West Des Moines, 330 to 340 would be the absolute minimum that someone could build a house for, still make a profit. So, and that's not for everyone either. So I think that if people can't afford necessarily that new single family home, lends itself to the townhomes and apartments still being pretty prevalent out there for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Let's talk about land and land growth. When you mentioned Waukee and you mentioned Ankeny can grow as far north just about as they want, almost all the way to Ames and chew up everything. They're jumping the interstate. The third high school is going to go on the other side of the interstate. They got a lot of room to run from there to Bondurant. There's still 7 miles between Waukee and Adel. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ground there. West Des Moines has grown almost as far west. Is that fair to say? It's grown into Waukee. And that's probably helped spur what's taking place in Waukee. But so talk to me about the growth of West Des Moines in the annexation. What does that look like?
Hey, Iowa investors. This is Ava Baukamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit legacyimpactinvestors.com to apply.
Yeah. And that's something I maybe didn't appreciate when I took the job, how much of this role, is defined by how much we annex and can grow our city boundaries in the future too. So we are working on annexation right now that would grow us up into the Waukee boundary. So kind of the Rubes Steakhouse exit. Think of Rubes off of I-80 there. West side of that road would be Waukee. Basically, the east side of that would be West Des Moines territory to grow into. That's one area. And so that's got its challenges. There's some subdivisions there that have been around for many decades that, like the lower taxes and the ability to do some things that maybe you can't within the city limits when it comes to parking your RV outside or burning your trash or whatever that may be. But we are a city, and I think to my knowledge, we're the only city that's in the state of Iowa that is in 4 different counties. And so it's not just Dallas County. Obviously, that's where the most growth is happening at. But we've got territory and we've got room to grow into areas in Warren County and Madison County as well. And thanks to all the public improvements that the city has made to support some of the growth that we've seen on the fringe of the city, it's allowed us to open up about 4,500 acres for development. And so now we've got to kind of right size the other elements to the equation to get sewer and water mains and natural gas, these areas so they can grow in the future. But one of the other things too, from a land perspective that we're faced with is most of the easily developable flat cornfield property in West Des Moines has already been developed. Right. And so as we go further west, we've got a lot more topography that we've got to deal with. And with that makes it more expensive to develop. So that's something too, when we talk about Ankeny and Waukee, they've got a lot of that flat, easier developed ground when we're kind of running a little bit more short on that. So
going down into Madison County, not only are you dealing with city boundaries, you're dealing with school boundaries. And so you run into some of the school boundaries as you go that direction, in which you just cross the county line in, let's say, Dallas, it's West Des Moines schools. You go 1 block the other way and it's Madison County schools. And all of a sudden it's a 30 to 40 minute drive, whatever it happens to be, 30 some odd minute drive, let's say, to get down to Winterset where the school actually exists. Mm-hmm. How much is that ultimately challenge what's taking place when it comes to rooftops specifically? How much is that going to challenge the growth of rooftops as you look to annex one?
We have 6 school district boundaries within the city of West Des Moines. So obviously West Des Moines community and Waukee schools are the 2 big ones. And Waukee's seeing the most growth right now, but we also dip into Norwalk, a little bit of Des Moines Independent School District, Van Meter, and Winterset schools. And, I think when it comes to Winterset, you're absolutely right. I mean, the growth in the northern portion of that county is 20 to 25 minutes away from Winterset where the schools are at. But that school district had the foresight, knowing that land's not going to get any cheaper, to go ahead and buy a school site that's proximate. It's not in the city of West Des Moines, but certainly would be within our path of growth in the future to go ahead and just kind of lock that down for when the growth does hit that area. So hats off to them for being proactive. Yeah. Same thing with Waukee schools. They've been very proactive in terms of making sure that they're ahead of the growth curve, and it's a rapid pace in Waukee.
Yes.
But, we're working with them constantly on identifying those next sites too.
You talked about, attracting businesses and then retaining businesses. What does it typically look like? Businesses have a lot of places to go, and there's tremendous reasons why somebody should be in West Des Moines. But what does that look like from you?
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
Yeah, and I kind of divide economic development, just definition, into thirds. And a third of that really is the retaining the existing businesses that you have and going and recruiting new ones. Third of it really is kind of the project management and incentive negotiation, projects that come through. And then another third, which is really kind of marketing the community a little bit. So, I think for us, we've got a pretty robust program that we call Business Retention Visit Program. And so we're out there meeting with a whole host of industries, and it's, everything from manufacturing to small business to the big insurance companies that are based here, and just kind of building a relationship with them, seeing what their needs are, if they're growing, if they're contracting, how we can help them. If something did happen, they've got a face to the name, basically. So that's something that we do, kind of stay ahead of the curve and make sure that you always hear the adage about, if you want to grow your economy, the best way to do that is with who you've got in your backyard right now. Yep. So we take that seriously. But on the attraction front, I think that we're unique as a community, participate in what's called the Site Selectors Guild. And I've only done this twice since I've come with the city now, but we go to a conference basically and work with the national site selectors. And these are the folks that really are charged with, if you have an Amazon HQ2 or a semiconductor manufacturing plant, they're weeding through hundreds and thousands of sites across the country to find the right one for their client. And so we like to get them familiar with West Des Moines and the Des Moines metro area. So in conjunction with the Greater Des Moines Partnership, we actually just 2 weeks ago did what we call a familiarization tour. So we brought up 2 nationally renowned site selectors, gave them a helicopter tour of the metro, certainly drove them around West Des Moines quite a bit, and just really wine and dine them to show the great quality of life that we have here, and certainly the sites that we have too. So that's one of those unique things I think we do in West Des Moines to help put us on the radar, let them know what we've got, and certainly open up their eyes to the sites that we have available.
Yeah, one of the things you guys have been wildly successful at is attracting data centers. Newer things how did that come to be from the get-go, perhaps? And then, how's that impacted West Des Moines?
Yeah, I think the reason as to why, and it's not just West Des Moines, right? Like we've been very fortunate with working on what is our 6th data center out in West Des Moines with the Microsoft Corporation, but obviously Apple's got a campus in Waukee, Meta, Facebook is about built out. And it really comes down to, as far as elements in the equation, reliable, low-cost energy, and then available and abundant land. And a lot of these large tech companies like to tout that they're powered by renewable or now non-carbon energy sources. And so if you paid attention, when all these data centers were getting going, there'd be a large wind farm announcement, and about 6 months to a year later, that's when the data center would hit. So that was kind of done in tandem, basically. But that's kind of the story as to how it got here. And I think, our story with Microsoft originally was, this was all cloud-based storage for the stuff that we keep on our devices. And now it's transitioned into AI supercomputing. And so the software that Microsoft uses to power ChatGPT from a data center perspective started right here in West Des Moines. And we visited with company officials with Microsoft. I mean, they showed us the growth trajectory that they're on from a data center perspective. In 08, 09, when we first landed our Microsoft data center, the original one, it was ticking up. But then in 2021, when ChatGPT hit, it's a straight beeline in terms of the need to find available sites all over the country right now. And there are some challenges out there with the electrical loads. We have a lot of discussions about water consumption that's needed to evaporatively cool these facilities. So a lot of these are things that I think technology will solve long term, but the need for data centers is speeding up. And so really what this has meant for West Des Moines, having 6 facilities, each one is basically $1 billion capital investment. And, if you've seen these get built, they finish one building, they roll on to the next one and the next one. And so, it spikes our permit valuation, but these things for us, a great name behind the companies that are investing here and the significant investment, they've generated about 350 to 400 jobs, permanent full-time jobs here in West Des Moines. They've brought 3,000 construction jobs. And again, this is only Microsoft. Right. But I think they are property tax cash cows for us too. And they assess very highly. We don't really do a whole lot of incentives in terms of grants or tax abatements or things like that. One of the things we strive to do in West Des Moines really is lead with infrastructure. And so that has been our primary incentive that we've given to these data centers is oftentimes because they're light industrial uses, they go on the fringe of the community, not a lot of infrastructure there to serve them. So we'll go bond for the infrastructure to get all of it put in, create a tax increment finance in district, and then use the increment that comes off the data center to pay down our bonds. And the nice thing about that is we've got something to show for it at the end of the day. We all know these tech companies probably don't need a lot of grants and subsidies.
Correct.
But now, again, with the investment that's been made with all this infrastructure, we've really opened up $200 million worth of public improvements that have allowed us to have almost 5,000 acres of developable property that's served by the infrastructure that Microsoft's helped us pay for.
Yeah, you get out ahead of it and get to put some things in place that make it easier to go for a developer, for a builder, for anybody to go get something done.
Yeah, and I like to tout this statistic too, but we're the seventh largest city in the state of Iowa population-wise. We have the third highest assessed value after only Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. And $2 billion of our $7 billion property tax valuation comes from the data centers. So they're a major part of our economy. They're our largest property taxpayer, done a lot of things for the community otherwise too. They've contributed to the construction of the Jamie Hurd Amphitheater. They've helped put Wi-Fi district-wide in the Valley Junction neighborhood. They've contributed almost $30 million to water system improvements here. So just a phenomenal community partner.
It's always interesting. So oftentimes you don't know how good you have it until you don't for reliable energy and affordable energy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us get our energy bills and you're like, it's too high, but you don't know how good you have it until you don't. You go visit somebody else in a different part of this country. It's not quite the same.
Well, yeah, Mid-American Energy is a great partner as well, a utility partner. I mean, they're renowned in the economic development circles nationwide as to be able to provide great customer service. This sounds like a commercial for them, but it's the honest to God truth. Our site selectors that just visited the community said much the same thing, that they are held in high regard. And so that's part of the elements to the equation of economic development are great utility partners.
I've known their CEO, Adam Wright. We played football together, University of Nebraska Omaha, both graduated from there. So he's doing a heck of a good job over there for what's taking place here. You just gave me, I think, what might be the best little known fact that I get to walk away with is that 2/7 of the valuation is all derived from data centers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild stat.
That is. And, I think we want to be mindful too of making sure we diversify our revenue streams long term. We don't want too many eggs in one basket. Certainly we won't say no to more data centers because they are lucrative for us. But without question, I mean, we've got our eyes on industrial is a hot market segment right now. And so we want to become more active in that sector and make sure that we can do some things to put our sites out there. Again, a lot of the infrastructure is already in. So now it's just doing the due diligence to maybe get these privately owned sites out of the point where they're more shovel ready.
Why Iowa? What keeps you here? You could do this anywhere, but what keeps you grounded here?
Yeah, I grew up on the south side of Des Moines. I'm a native. I'm a local. We're invested in the community. Recently, we just sold a business, but my wife and I, we had a business in Des Moines. There's family here. So you're right. We probably could go elsewhere, but, I think it's just the people that keeps us here, quite honestly. So,
Ryan, you ready for the final 3 questions?
Sure.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
I would say, coming out of school, planning school especially, they teach you a lot about theory and principles and practices, but they don't really teach you a whole lot about the realities of politics and the realities of economy. So, I think it's basically you can still have your principles, but don't get too roiled by things that come at you that are out of your control when it comes to politics when you work in government. It's fascinating and frustrating at the same time, but that would be a good lesson for anyone coming out of school that wants to get in this field, basically, is there are factors outside of your control that are going to affect how you do your job.
2 books that changed your life.
To be honest, I'm not a huge book reader. I'm immersed in, business record and business articles and things like that. But I think with this role especially, I mean, it's got me pressed for time. And unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to commit to books. But one of the other things I also do in my spare time is I administer a website called urbandsm.com. And I've had this since 2004, but this is basically a discussion about Des Moines area development. And so there's a discussion forum on there. Used to be able to go out and get updates on project pictures and things like that a little bit more often, but that's something I do in my spare time to fill up what could have been reading a book.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. If you were cast away on an island for 1 year, you can only get 3 pieces of data about your business. So however you want to define that by your role, what 3 things must you know every month to know how your role, how the job, how the business is going?
Yeah, I would say just the state of the market, and it depends on whatever sector it may be, office, residential, industrial, definitely wanting to keep up with the trends. I would say keeping up with the politics, and we have to follow what the state legislature does often because that impacts what we do as well. And then just overall tax climate and business climate too. That's certainly a big part of economic development that maybe when I was a city planner, I didn't appreciate. Then it was more about aesthetics and, how things look and how they're going to interact with the community. Now it's more about the business aspect of how they're going to fit in and, how they're going to contribute to our economy.
Okay, so I've asked you lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
Well, I think I would just touch a little bit on the Grand Experience project, which is another big thing that our department's working on, really many departments at the city. But for those not familiar with this is basically a large indoor water park, a conference center. This is being proposed on basically any cornfield in any direction from the Recplex complex on Grand Avenue. Yeah. There's a master developer that's got an option on all that property. Right. And so this water park and the conference center is kind of what gets a lot of the acclaim in the press. But as a component of this large master plan project is also 600 to 800 units of housing, some of which are intended to be affordable. And we have a large service sector economy with the creation of the water park and shopping and things like that would support it. We want to make sure that we've got housing proximate to where the workforce needs to be at. But then it opens up a lot of ancillary commercial development. So pad sites for restaurants and breweries and coffee shops, things of that nature. So that's something that would be, our mayor calls it the big pizza because it's got everything included there basically. And if we can get that off the ground, I think they're kind of affected by what a lot of projects are right now with high construction cost and interest rates. But if this happens, it's another feather in the cap between what we've got going at the Recplex, DMU and DMAC already on that corridor, and it's only a mile away from Jordan Creek Town Center and Topgolf and all the great things for that area too. So we've really cemented ourselves as kind of a destination for family-friendly entertainment options. That would certainly be another attribute to the community.
Forward to seeing that one come along. Ryan, for people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about West Des Moines, where can they go? What should they do?
Yep. We've got our website, wdm.iowa.gov. You'd have to go to the economic development section, community and economic development. That'll tell you more about our department, who our staff are, what resources might be available if you're starting businesses, and just really give you some good statistics and information about the community that we use to market the community.
Fantastic. Links are below in the show notes, everybody. Ryan, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.